Good afternoon. This is our bi-weekly Facebook town hall. We've been pretty busy the last few weeks. End of this week, we'll be approaching the halfway mark in the session, and it's going to be very, very, very busy the last half. We have a record number of bills being put in. Almost half of them go to my committee. So we're going to be having very late evenings. This Thursday, we're hearing the alcohol bills, and the Comptroller's Brewery bill is coming up, and I think we have 75 witnesses scheduled for that. So Thursday could easily be 11 o'clock midnight hearing day with all the other liquor bills plus that bill. We do have a few local liquor bills that we're dealing with. We've had requests for. We're reducing the seating for a liquor license in a restaurant from 50 seats to 28. That's basically to make it same as the wine license, and to also allow some places that have the 50-seat requirement but are having trouble meeting the modern day fire requirements to stay in business without losing their liquor license and having the capability of selling their business at some point. We have an arena liquor license that was brought to us by Mount St. Mary's. They would like at some of their events at their field house to possibly be able to sell beer, but they have a big banquet room on the other side. And rather than coming in for licenses every time they have an event, it would allow them to serve alcohol at various events at the arenas there. This would also apply to Hood if they ever chose to do it. We have a requirement right now to have banquet facilities that you have to spend $250,000 in order to get it. The way it's written, if an existing banquet facility were to be sold, the new owner would have to put $250,000 in, even though all the facilities were there. So basically, we're requiring that it have adequate indoor bathrooms and an adequate commercial kitchen, and that the other facilities be there, but without a dollar limit on what they need to spend. We also have a bill in to allow a shop that sells basically cheese and deli items to be able to serve 5 ounces of wine to customers that are trying cheeses and want to sit down and have something there. Statewide, the Comptroller's bill's coming in, and the Brewers Association took his bill and broke it down in 6 parts. So they'll be coming in individually in addition to the main license. This is going to be difficult. We have very difficult laws in Maryland for breweries, and it does make me a little nervous that we could lose Flying Dog because of those regulations, and nothing's been done to accommodate them. After meetings all over the state, the Comptrollers put in a very comprehensive license giving brewers a lot of leeway. Basically, say they're in business like anybody else. They can keep their hours and sell their product. The chairs of both committees have publicly said they're not going to move on the bill. So we're going to have a lot of people from around the state coming in, testifying and writing. So those hearings could be quite hot. We'll see what happens with them. All my original major bills have been heard before committee. The only one taken action on so far is the senior tax retirement bill, which they again rejected. I still think it's a good bill. We'll continue to put it in the future, and hopefully at some time we'll have some action on it. But the Slots for Homeless Veterans bill has been heard. The vocational training apprentice and community college bill has been heard. Joint resolution on increasing the number of women on corporate boards has been heard. The Maryland Small Business Fairness Act has been heard. The Maryland Independent Film Makers have been heard, and the Cannabis Business Tax Conformity Bill has been heard. Just to explain that last one, they are being treated because of federal law different than all other businesses. They can't deduct their expenses. They have to pay taxes on their gross revenue, not on their net revenue like all other businesses do. In addition, I've got several bills that I kind of agreed to step up and help sponsor. I have the Forest Conservation Act, which basically says if you take a tree down, you have to replace it with a tree. Oversimplification, but that's what it's about. I have a bill in that said you can't put a microchip in a human being without their consent. We have a bill in. It's very difficult for some laboratories to bid on state projects, and we're trying to open that up. I had a bill in on car insurance, and it looks like I'm going to go with a second piece on that. They can raise your car insurance if your credit rating's bad. And your credit rating has nothing to do with your capability of paying your car insurance. You have to pay that up front. So there are things like where you live and your credit rating that jack car insurance up in certain locales, and we feel it's an unfair thing. It isn't like they're getting credit, and if their credit's bad, they pay more. They pay car insurance up front, so we feel that's totally unfair. A big thing coming up tonight, we're having the women's rally. Women's rally in Lawyers Mall at 7 o'clock. The Me Too movement and a number of other women issues are pretty big right now, and this is a rally for support of women and equality. There are a number of bills that I'm sponsoring or co-sponsoring this year relating to women. I mentioned the joint resolution for more women on Capitol boards. That is a request. It's not a requirement. But Maryland is behind the rest of the country. Across the country, there are 21% of women on all boards. In Maryland, it's 14%. Across the country, there are only 5% of the boards that don't have women on them. In Maryland, it's 30%. And there are studies that show that boards with multiple women on are more profitable. So it's not just an equity issue. It's a good common sense issue to have more women on their boards. We had the Rape Survivor Family Protection Act. That takes away her rights of rapist. It's bad enough if a woman has been raped and is pregnant as a result of it, but then the rapist could have parental rights. So they have been taken away. We have a Repeat Sexual Predator Prevention Act that's coming through. Protective orders on domestic violence, child care subsidies, child abuse and neglect, disclosure of identifying information when this has occurred. There's a sexual assault policy being considered, and protecting the resources of children that are in state custody. So there are a lot of issues coming up relating to women's issues, rape, domestic violence, and child protection. Those bills are all in the process of being heard. We have passed the one already, taking away parental rights of a rapist. So they're just some of the issues that are coming up. There are always bills in that require constitutional changes, or ones that call for a constitutional convention to make changes on certain things like redistricting, balanced budget, guns, etc. Most of them have not moved. We do have a bill in this year calling for a phased-in increase in minimum wage to $15 an hour. We have tried to become a more business-friendly state, but we're trying to be a friendly state to working families too. People can't live on $10 an hour. There are families where the husband has 2 jobs and the wife has one, all making minimum wage, and they can still barely make it on that. So we're trying to help with those issues. There are still bills coming in. We've passed the deadline for submitting bills, but they can go through Rules Committee and brought out. We've also presented bills, and the governor just jumped in as he usually does, and is submitting a bill to do the same thing for the bills we've already submitted. He's very good at grabbing attention like that in press conferences. We are trying to make tax changes to help Marylanders because of the federal so-called tax reform bill that passed, which was going to cost Marylanders more than $1 billion. For example, now that you can't deduct itemized deductions on federal law, we were tied to that, so you couldn't on state laws. So we're removing that so that people can still do itemized deductions, at least on state tax. So we have other bills in to try to help Marylanders where they're getting hit hard by that tax reform bill. As I said, it's getting heavy. It's almost like a long distance race in the legislature. We started out knowing we got a long way to go, and it's kind of short and easy for the first few weeks, and then it picks up to a very intensive pace, and we are starting to hit that now. And we probably, between the House and Senate, will approach hearing 4,000 bills this year. We do have a committee system that helps make it a little easier. Bills are referred to committees based on what they are, and that committee hears it. If it's a bill that kind of has minor opposition and the committee passes at 11-0 or 10-1, it will generally pass the floor 47-0. It's only the more social issues, prison issues, tax issues that are controversial, and we have split votes on. It's really just impossible in the time we're there, for example, to read 4,000 bills. So as I said, my committee will get 500 to 600 of them. We do read all those bills. We do have hearings on all those bills, but we then have discussions on those bills before we vote on them. And then they go to the floor from that. Bills that come over from the House, some of them are matching bills to the ones we passed in the Senate, so we don't have to really rediscuss those. But if the person didn't cross-file the bill and it passes, then we have to have a hearing on that later in the session. And then when we go to the floor, the number we'll hear is reduced way down from the 4,000, and we vote on those, and in each house, and if they pass and the governor signs them, they become law. So it's complicated in one way, it's simple in another. It's organized, and hopefully we get reasonable results. Now, a lot of people ask about why so many bills. A lot of the bills just clarify something that was missing in another bill, or in a lot of cases, if there's no need for an existing law anymore, there's a bill to remove that from the books. So they're not all new laws we're putting in. Many are clarifications, and many of them are removals. I assume most senators have something occur like I do. I usually have 7 or 8 bills that I put in every year that come from citizens that call me, stop me, see me at meetings, and say there's a problem here that I'm having, and we need some clarification or help on it, and we'll submit a bill to try to address those issues. So a good percentage of the bills actually come from the public. So that's pretty much a summary and wrap up of where we are at this point. I am continuing to have Facebooks during the session. We'll have another one in 2 weeks, Monday at noon as usual. I just did a telephone town hall. We had about 1,100 to 1,200 people tune in during that hour. In March sometime I will be having another one. We haven't set a date yet, but we send out about 19,000 phone calls. And, you know, a lot of people, numbers might be dead, it goes to voicemail, or people don't answer it. We then do leave a message to say, if you get this message during the hour and want to participate, you know, dial in. But we do get a real nice cross section of people that call in those town halls. We are doing closed captioning on YouTubes that we put up and on the Facebooks that we do. So we're trying to make it accessible to everyone. I will be holding a public Facebook probably towards the end of March. I try to do one towards the end of session and get any additional input or comments on what's still going on. And then right after session, I'm doing 2 other town halls. One on Medicaid, and a second one on prescription drugs. So the prescription drug town hall we'll probably do at the library where I do my other town halls, and the Medicaid one we'll probably do up at the senior center because it mostly relates to seniors. So as soon as we have dates on those, we'll notify you. In the meantime, if you see this now live or see it on Facebook where we post it, have any comments or questions, please get them to me and we'll try to answer them in the next Facebook town hall or answer the questions directly if need be. So with that, if there's nothing else, I thank you all for tuning in and or watching it on my Facebook, and I'll try to stay in touch with you and get in touch with me if I can help you in any way. So this is Senator Ron Young, and signing off for this week. Hope to see you in 2 weeks at the same time, Monday at 12 o'clock. Thank you.